How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Hey, Daf 45 of Masechta Gittin. Friends, alright, we're going to wrap up some Avodim stuff, and then we're going to get to Pidyon Shvuyim Mishtikol, somewhat interesting. Yeah, and then Sifrei Torah, Tefillah, Mezuzahs, some interesting stuff, L'maisa, on this Daf. So yeah, we're just going to start off by wrapping up kind of the topic of the previous days with Avodim, and let's do that. Okay, we're going to start on Daf Mem Hey Amud Aleph, 3 lines into the wider lines at the 2 dots. Oh, very interesting. So there was an Eved who ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. So that's very interesting now, because now what do? Do you return him to, do you return him? But if you return him, you're taking an Eved who's Chayv Mitzvahs, you're taking him from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, which, you can't sell an Eved from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, so do you send him back to Chutz La'aretz? So after the ark mi Chutz La'aretz La'aretz, also Morei Abbas, right? So his master ran after him to take him back to Chutz La'aretz, but also the Kamid Reb Ami, so he comes to Reb Ami in Eretz Yisrael to figure out, can you take him back to Chutz La'aretz now? So Reb Ami says, look, Nichtov l'choshtar admei, well, let's just write for you a document for his value, uchsov le Gittin d'cherisa, and in change, you free him, right? Don't take him back to Chutz La'aretz, we'll just give you his value. V'lo, and if you don't agree to these terms, mafkana le minoch, we're just going to take him away from you. Midrab achi Reb Yoshia, based on the teaching, based on the ruling of Reb Achi Reb Yoshia, the Tana is learned in the Brisa, lo yeshvu ba'aretzcha pen yachtiu oscha li v'gomer. So it says by the Shiva Umis, the 7 nations, that they can't live among you because they might make you sin. Is it possible that this is talking about a Ovid Kochavim, right? Does this even include Ovid Kochavim who accepted upon themselves not to serve Getchkis? So Talmud Lomar, so the way I understand this, it's a little confusing, but I think the way I understand the pasuk is in the following, this Gemara is in the following way, these few lines. Talmud Lomar, lo sazgir Eved el Adonov, do not return an Eved to his master, but apparently that, if I understand correctly, that's a reference to don't have an Ovid Kochavim who renounced serving Getchkis, don't return him to go back to serving Getchkis. That he has, gone away from serving Getchkis. Don't return him to there. So what do you do? Let him dwell among you, away from the Getchkis. Reb Yoshi doesn't understand. How could this, if I understand this correctly, how could these psukim be a reference to a fellow who goes away from serving Getchkis? So it says Aviv, but there's a letter, there's a goes between and changes it to Elohav. So it shouldn't be that he turns away from his master. It should be he turns away from his gods, from his Getchkis. It should say. So rather, Rabbi Yosha says, look, if you want to stick to the psukim that's talking about Adonov, it's b'mocher avdo l'chutz la'aretz akosov medaber. It's talking about, the scenario is talking about a fellow who sells his Eved from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, and we're saying don't return him to Chutz La'aretz. Wait, what? What we're saying that, right, that you should not sell an Eved to Chutz La'aretz. Fine. V'kashele l'Reb Achi Reb Yoshia. But now Reb Achi Reb Yoshia, the protagonist of our Gemara, says, "Hai asher yinotzel elecha, asher yinotzel me'imcha miboile." But the pasuk says, "Asher yinotzel elecha," that he will come to you. But if he's going from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz, it should be from you. So Ela Amar Reb Achi Reb Yoshia be'eved shebarach michutz la'aretz hakosov medaber. Rather, the pasuk is talking about an Eved that ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, and we're saying that we don't send him back. So therefore, going back to our scenario, we had this Eved who ran away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, and then his master says, so now his master chases after him to Eretz Yisrael to bring him back to Chutz La'aretz, but Rami says, look, you can't take him back to Chutz La'aretz. Either, what we can do for you is we can write you a document for his value, a shtar for his value, and if you're unwilling to accept that, then we're just going to take him away from you, because as we see the interpretation of Rabbi Achi Reb Yosha, that an Eved who runs away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, so then he doesn't go back to Chutz La'aretz. Tani Yidach, we have another brisa. How do you understand Lo Saskir Eved El Adonov? Do not return an Eved to his master. Rebbe Omer says, Rebbe Bilokeach Eved Almanas L'Shachriru Kosov Medaber. If a fellow purchases an Eved under the condition to return him. 1 second, is my neighbor saying something? No, I don't hear it. Good, let's go weiter. Wait, what? Maybe, but let's go weiter. I'd rather go weiter. Yanki the Tsar. Okay, Medaber Echidami. So, no, what is this guy who buys an Eved under the condition to free him? So, Amr of Nachman Bar Yitzchak Tichosav Le, that he writes to the Eved, Hochi, like this, Lichshei Kochacha, when I purchase you, you are free from now. Okay, fine. So we have two psukim. No, we have one pasuk, but we have two ways of understanding this pasuk. Where the pasuk says, "Lo sasgir Eved el Adonov," do not return an Eved to his master. Reb Achi Reb Yosha understands that to talk about an Eved who runs away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. We don't return him to his master in Chutz La'aretz. The other way to understand that is talking about a fellow who buys an Eved under the condition to be freed, so he goes free. Okay. Fine. Reb Chizde Arak Le Avda Levei Kusoi. Now Reb Chizde, his Eved ran away to the Beit Kutoi. Shalach Lu, so he sent to them, Hajua nearly, I would like you to send him back to me, right? Beit Kutoi was in Chutz La'aretz. Reb Chizde lived in Chutz La'aretz, so there was no issue of like Eretz Yisrael, Chutz La'aretz kind of stuff. His Pashut, his Eved ran away. Reb Chizde sent, right, Shadrua Lu, he sent to them, Hajua nearly, send him back. But they sent to Rav Chizde, Lo Sazkir Eved El Adonov. Look, the pasuk says, don't return a fugitive slave to his master. Shalach lehu, he sent to them, Ha'u be'eved shebarach m'chutz la'aretz la'aretz, u'ch'dabach Reb Yosha. But Rav Chizde says, that's an amateur, that's a rookie interpretation. After all, Reb Achi Reb Yosha says it's not just talking about Stam and Eved that runs away, it's talking about an Eved that runs from Eretz Yisrael from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. I don't know if a minute ago I said from Eretz Yisrael to Chutz La'aretz. It's talking about an Eved who runs away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael, that we don't send him back to Chutz La'aretz. But here, we're all in Chutz La'aretz over here, so send him back. Umayshna to Shalach Lu Kedubachi Reb Yosha. How come Rav Chizda sent to them based on the explanation of Reb Achi Reb Yosha versus Rebbe, who says that it's talking about a fellow who buys an Eved under the condition to free him, because it's easier to understand. It's an easier interpretation to say, look, that pasuk is not talking about all Avadim who run away. It's talking about specifically Avadim who run away from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. But Rebbe's interpretation is more complicated. It's talking about a guy who's buying an Eved. Reb Achi Reb Yosha sticks to sort of the storyline of an Eved, a fugitive Eved. So it's just easier for, his Eved ran away to some place, he sends to them, send him back. They're now saying, no, what do you mean there's this pasuk? He said, look, I'm not going to get into details over here, just send Reb Achi Reb Yosha's opinion, it's easier to understand, and that's that. Abaye irkas le chamra beikutoi. So Abaye, his donkey, ran away to the Beit Kutoi. Shalach Lu, he sent to them, Shadru Ali, send me back my donkey. Shalchule, so they sent to Abaye, Shlach Simona. Well, we're not just going to send back your donkey, send us a sign, prove that it's yours. Shalach Lu, he sent to them, Tichivra Kreise. Well, it has a white belly. Shalchule, they sent back to Abaye, Ilav de Nachmaniyat, if not for the fact that you're Abaye, Lo Ava Mashdar Nalich, Le Nialich, we would not, that description would not have flown, would not have worked as a siman. Don't all donkeys have white bellies? So they said back to Abaye, they said, look, okay, you're Abaye, I understand that you're telling the truth, but FYI, saying that your donkey has a white belly is not very unique. All donkeys have white bellies. Okay. I even Googled it. It seems pretty accurate. It looked like all the donkeys that I saw had white bellies. Ein Podenes Hashvuyin Yasser al Kedei Demein. Oh, so now we get to a new Mishnah. So we're going to have two Mishnahs that we're going to learn today. Relatively interesting stuff, in my opinion. Ein Podenes Hashvuyin Yasser al Kedei Demein. So if Yidden are taken captive, some nudniks came and took captives. So now there's pidyon shvuyim. Now you have to pay ransoms to get them back. So you don't pay more than the value, more than their value. Mipnei tikkun olam, out of concern for tikkun olam. And the Gemara is going to explain what that means. Wait, one second. Is there noise going on outside? Give me a second to try to evaluate what's happening outside. Okay, there's definitely activity. Yeah, there's activity. Give me 1 second to try to figure out, to make a plan. Okay, here's the update. They're making just enough noise to be distracting. Just enough noise to be distracting. But friends, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to Yankee the Zaret. I'm going to try to Yankee the Zaret. I got to channel my inner Yankee Lazar. Give me a second. I have to channel my inner Yankee Lazar. I have to channel my inner Yankee Lazar. I feel like I have to sit with my legs crossed and, put, kind of like my nephew. My nephew meditates in the shower, I think. That's what I'm told. So I have to channel my... Are they gone? Hopefully they're going away soon. All right, I have to channel my inner Yankee Lazar. All right. And we don't try to help the captives escape because of tikkun olam. Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, well, we're concerned for the existing shvuyim. Friends, we'll get to all this stuff just now. So here we go. So how do we understand this tikkun olam in the context of pidyon shvuyim, right? So we had said at the beginning of the Mishnah that if nudniks take Yidden as captives, so we don't pay higher than their value, right? We're not going to pay an exorbitant amount. So we said because of tikkun olam. What does that mean? Is it mishum duchka de tzibur? Well, because we don't want to strain the community, right? I mean, if these nudniks are gonna demand an exorbitant price, that would strain the entire community to have to provide that amount. So that's just, so we can't force the community to do that. Or dilma, or perhaps mishum dilo legarvu velesu tvei. Or perhaps is we don't want them to realize that this is a lucrative business and start doing it more often, right? If they can charge an exorbitant amount and get it, so then that will motivate them, that will incentivize them to continue doing it. Whereas if as a principle we do not pay more than their value, so then maybe these nudniks will say, look, this business is not lucrative enough. Let's try to go legitimate and do something else. Tashma, the Levi bar darge parke levarte bitlesa alfa din rezov. So there was Levi bar darge, and unfortunately his daughter was taken captive, and he paid an exorbitant amount, 13,000 golden dinars. So that seems to imply that the concern is for straining the community. But if somebody is willing to pay for it on his own without straining the resources of the community, that seems to be acceptable. Amar Abai, to which Abai says, Uman leimalon dibrotzon chachomim avad domashlo brotzon chachomim avad. But who says that Levi bar darge did it with the blessing of the rabbis? Maybe he went against their wishes. Maybe they would have preferred that he didn't do that, because that will only incentivize them, to the nudniks, to do it nachamol, to do it again with somebody else. So the fact that Levi bar darge paid his daughter's ransom at an exorbitant price isn't a proof that that is acceptable. You're right, that you can pay the price as long as it doesn't drain the resources of the community. Maybe he didn't do the right thing. And we don't assist the captives to flee mipnei tikkun olam, out of concern of tikkun olam. So what this means is that, well, because if the kidnappers kidnap somebody and then we help them flee and escape, so then they'll just learn for the next time and give them even worse conditions, right? Meaning they'll learn. It was actually very interesting. I was reading an autobiography recently, and there was a description about a hostage situation on a plane, and how the Israeli special forces, they succeeded in doing some, of course, very daring hostage saving hostages from hijacked planes. But then there got to a situation where, the terrorists kind of learned, and the next time they didn't keep them on the plane or in the plane terminal, they divided them up among a bunch of different places. So if you, this is not, of course, to say that it was a bad idea to do those hostage things. I'm just not commenting on that at all. Wait, what is that noise? Dag nabbit. A motorcycle? Get out of here, come on. Yankee Lazar. Anyways, so the point is that they're going to learn, and then that'll affect, negatively impact the next situation. So the tikkun olam here is that if you, meaning, so there are different options, right? Either you can give to the terrorists' demands, and they want X amount of money, and as long as it's not an exorbitant amount, you pay it. Or you could try to get a hostage freeing situation. So according to Tanna Kama, we're saying don't try to help these people escape, because then the next time the nudniks are gonna, it'll make the predicament worse for the people the next time around. Whereas Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, no, we don't have to be concerned about the next time around. What we do have to be concerned about, though, is if only some of them are going to go free, well, the ones that stay there are going to be in big trouble, right? It's what happened in Entebbe, right? All of the hostages were freed, but there was a sick woman who was taken to the hospital, and she was left behind because she was in the hospital, and they just went and they killed her. So that's the machlokas. So my benayu ikabenayu deleka elachad. So the nafkamina is if there is only one hostage, right? So if there was only one what's the word I'm thinking of? Captive. If there was only one captive, so that if they free that captive, then there's nobody left, and according to Shimon ben Gamliel, that'll be fine. But if it's based on, but the next time around it'll be a worse situation, so then that would still apply. That's an afkamina between the Tanna Kama and Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Okay, fine. Now, Bante de Rav Nachman, Bachashan Kidra Biyadayu. Rav Nachman's daughters were able to stir a boiling hot pot with just their bare hands. Kashli le Rav Elish. Rav Elish didn't understand. That's crazy. Who can stir a boiling hot pot with just their bare hands? They must be tzaddikises. But one second, I don't understand. See, the pasuk says, "Adam echod mi-elef motzasi," that 1 in 1,000 men I found to be a tzaddik. Ve'isha b'chol eda lo motzasi. But I haven't found any tzaddikises. And therefore I don't understand. How could Rav Nachman's daughters be stirring pots with their bare hands? They would have to be tzaddikises, but apparently the pasuk says there are no tzaddikises. Ha'ika banti de Rav Nachman. But what about the daughters of Rav Nachman? They seem to be tzaddikises. Garmlu milsa ve'ishtabion ve'ishtaboi iu nami badayu. So one thing led to the next. Somehow they all ended up being captives. Rav Nachman's daughters, this Rabbi Elish, they all ended up being captives. Yom echad havi Yosef gabe ha'u gavra. Now while they were in captivity, there was a fourth fellow, and he was sitting by them. Davayoda bilishna ditzipori. And this fourth fellow knew how to understand the language of the boys. Also urva v'kakari lay, and a raven came and he was calling out to Rav Elish. Omer le. So Rav Elish said to this fellow, Micah Omer, what's the raven saying? No. Omer le, Elish brach. So the fellow said, the raven is saying, Elish, run away. Elish, run away. Omar Urva Shakrahu Velo Samichna Ole. He says that raven is a liar. I'm not depending on that raven. Adochi also Yona. But then a dove came. Vikakarya and was calling out, Omerle, my Ka'amra. So Rav Elish says to the fellow, what is the dove saying? Omerle, Elish brach, Elish brach. He's saying, Elish, flee, Elish, flee. Omar, so Rav Elish says, look, this time around, Knesset Yisrael Kiyona Matila. Look, the Yidden are compared to a dove. Shmamina Misrachish Li Nisa. Apparently, a miracle will be performed for me. Omar, he said, Ezel Achze Banti to Rav Nachman. So before I flee, let me check in on the daughters of Rav Nachman. Ikaiman Bem Nusayu. If they've maintained their emuna, their bitochin, I will take them out with me. We'll all escape together. Adrinu. I'm sorry, Ikaiman Bem Nusayu Adrinu. Right. So if they've kept their faith and their belief, I will take them with me, and we'll all go home together. Omar Noshe Kol Mile De Islu Sajun Lahadode. So he says, how will I figure out if they've kept the faith? Well, women, anything that they talk about anything important, they talk about in the bathroom. So Shaminu de Ka'amron, so he went and he stuck his ear. He went and he was kind of figured, let me try to hear what they're discussing in the bathroom. And he heard that they said, that they were saying, well, these guards of ours, these kidnapper guards, are men, and our husbands back in they could be our husbands, and our husbands back in Arda are our husbands. Let us say to our guards, to our captors, to take us far away, to take us somewhere else, to Leisu Inchin Vilishami Vilifarkinon, so that our husbands back in Arda don't find out where we are and try to free us. Let's just stick with these kidnapper guards. So Rav Elish heard this and he's like, well, doesn't seem like they kept the faith. Come. So Rav Elish got up, Arak, he ran away. Also, you Vahu Gavra Ledide. And wait, also Iu Ve'u Gavra Ledide. What? No, what? No, what? Also Iu Ve'u Gavra. So he went him with that other fellow, right? He ran away with that other fellow. Ledide Yisrachish Le'nisa. For Rav Elish, there was a miracle of Rav Mabara. He managed to get across this river to safety. Ve'u Gavra Ashkichua V'Kadur. But this other fellow who knew how to understand the language of the birds, they found him escaping, and they caught him and they killed him. Kiadron, and when Rav Nachman's daughters finally came back to Nardo, Kiadron v'oson Omar havu kabachashon kidra b'chshofim. He says, look, well, apparently when they were mixing those boiling hot pots with their bare hands, it must have been witchcraft, because it's not that they are tzaddikises, because they would have had preferred to stay with, or they were interested in staying with their kidnapper guards. Okay, interesting story. Okay, and now the second and final Mishnah of the Daf. And also we do not purchase Sifrei Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzahs from Ovdei Kochavim more than we don't pay higher than their value. Mipnei Tikkun Olam, out of concern for Tikkun Olam, again, either that we don't want to strain the community resources buying them back, or we don't want the Kochavim to think that this is a lucrative business and try to steal stuff so that they could sell them for high prices. Amr le Rav Budye the Ravashi says this Rav Budye to Ravashi Yoser Akde Demein Hu De'ein Lochin. Okay, so the Mishnah says that you can't pay more than their value. But for their value, you could pay their face value. So apparently, it sounds like if we could buy these Sifrei Torah at their value, so okay, it sounds like you can read from a Sefer Torah of an Oved Kochavim. right? What was it? Shmamina Sefer Torah shenimtza b'yad Oved Kochavim, that if you find a Sefer Torah by an Oved Kochavim, korin bo, you could read it. So Dilma Liganes. Maybe it means that not that you can read from it, but you buy it back, but you'd have to put it in Geniza, because you don't know. It may have been, maybe it was written for Getchkes. Omer Rav Nachman says of Nachman Naktinon Sefer Torah she'ksavo min. If you have a Sefer Torah that was written by a Galach, it was written by a priest, Yisarif, so it has to be burnt, because he definitely wrote it with this Getchkes in mind. Kosvo Ovid Kochavim, but if Stam in Ovid Kochavim wrote it, Yiganes. Well, in that case, you can just you don't have to burn it, because he didn't definitely write it with the Getchkes in mind, but you would have to put it in Geniza. Because at the end of the day, you are not sure. Okay, fine. Now, where am I? Okay, fine. It's fine. Nimtza biyad min yiganes. If it was found by a min, but he didn't necessarily write it, so then you have to put it in Geniza, because just in case he did write it, it would be a problem. But if he didn't write it, maybe it was written by Yisrael, but we don't know, so you bury it. Nimtza biyad oved kochavim. But if it's simply found in the possession of an oved kochavim, amri la yiganes v'amri la korin bo. So some people say put it in Geniza, but some people say you can actually read from it, because it's a sveika, right? Because if it was found in the possession of the oved kochavim, we don't know who wrote it, so maybe it was written by a yid, right? In which case, obviously, you can read from it. Okay, maybe it was written by the Ovid Kochavim. But even if it was written by the Ovid Kochavim, if he's not a Galach, if he's not a priest, so then who says that he wrote it with the intention of Getchkes? Maybe he didn't write it. Maybe he wrote it with the intention of Getchkes. Maybe he wrote it with the intention of selling it to Yidden. And we're going to see just now that there is an opinion that an Ovid Kochavim can write Sefer Torah for Yidden, as long as he's doing it for the Yidden, with the intention of the Yidden. So therefore, because of that, right? So based on that opinion, so it would be a sveika, right? A double suffix, right? That maybe it was written by a Yid, and even if it was written by the Ovid Kochavim, maybe he wrote it with the intention of writing it for Yidden. So some people say you would even be able to read from that Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah sheksavo Ovid Kochavim. So if you have a Sefer Torah that was written by an Ovid Kochavim, Tanichada Yisarif, one brisa says you have to burn it. V'tanidach Yiganes, another brisa says that you have to put it in Geniza, bury it. V'tanidach Korin Bo, but the third brisa says you can actually read from it. Lokashan, there's no problem. Hadatani Yisarif Rabbi Eliezer. So the opinion who says that you have to burn it, that's Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. The Omer Stam Machshavas Nochul Avodah Zarah. That Rabbi Eliezer says, look, by default, the intention for a Nochri is for Getchkes. Therefore, you have to burn the Sefer Torah. V'odatanya Yiganes, the brisa that says that you have to bury it. Hai Tanu is the following Tane, the Tani Rav Hamnuna Brei Derava Mi Prashronya, Sefer Torah Tefillin Mezuzis, that Sefer Torah Tefillin Mezuzis, Sheksavon, that was written by, so you apparently can leave out the min, that's in parentheses, Umasr, somebody who, a rat, a fellow who tells on Yidden to the authorities. Now, Ovid Kochavim, or written by an Ovid Kochavim, Ve'eved, Isha, V'ka'in, V'kusi, V'Yisrael Mumar, Psulin. In all of these cases, the Sefer Torah would be possible. Shenemar, as the Pasuk says, Ukshartem Uchsavtem. Right? It says, Ukshartem Uchsavtem, so we compare Ukshartem to Uchsavtem, Kol Yeshno B'Kshira, anybody who has the mitzvah of Tefillin, Yeshno B'Ksiva, also has the mitzvah of writing a Sefer Torah. V'chol she'enu B'Kshira, but anybody who does not have the mitzvah of putting on tefillin, Eino B'Chsiva, does not have the mitzvah of writing Sifrei Torah, and therefore, if it's written, so we see that if Sefer Torah is written by an Ovid Kochavim, it would go into Geniza, because it would be possible. V'had Tanya Korin Bo, and the brisa that says that you can actually, it's a kosher Sefer Torah, and you could read from it even. Hi Tanahu is the following Tana. The Tana is within a brayso. Lokhin svarim mina ovdei kochavim. We can purchase Sefer Torah from ovdei kochavim b'chol makom in any place. Uvilvad she'uksuvin kilchosin, as long as they are written properly. And therefore, we see that even in ovdei kochavim, if it's written properly, even ovdei kochavim can write a Sefer Torah. Now, umayse b'ovdei kochavim echod b'tzidon. There was a maise within ovdei kochavim in Tzidon. Sheyekosev svarim, that he was writing Sefer Torah. V'hitir Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel likach mimenu, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel permitted the people to purchase Sefer Torah from this Oved Kochavim. Where am I? Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, we said 1 second, this doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel allowed the people to purchase a Sefer Torah that was written by an Oved Kochavim. Ibud lishman boy, ksiv lishman lo boy. I don't understand. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel even requires that the parchment be parchmented, tanned lishma. Certainly, the writing would have to be lishma, and I assume that I guess that the assumption is that lishma is only something that a yid can do. So the Tanya is within the advice at tzipon zov. If fine. Okay. Now, if you have a tefillin that you covered in gold, or shitala alein or behemoth meh, or that the parchment of the tefillin was the parchment of the boxes of the tefillin was, well, I guess not the parchment. The boxes of the tefillin were from the hide of an impure animal. Psulos, those tefillin are psulos. Or behemoth tahora. Now, if the boxes are made of hide of a kosher animal, well then ksheris. Then the tefillin are ksheris. V'afal pi shelo ibdon lishman, and that's even if the tanning of the hide was not lishman. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel omer afilu or behemoth tahora psulas hachi avdan lishman. Whereas Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says nisht, even if the hide is from a pure animal, it would have to be tanned lishman. No, so if we see that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel holds that even the hide needs to be tanned lishma, certainly the writing of the klaf would have to be lishma. So Rabbi Bar Shmuel, right? So how could Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel say that there was this? How could it be that there's this Sefer Torah being written by this Oved Kochavim and Tzidon, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel saying it's okay? If the hides have to be tanned lishma, certainly the writing has to be lishma. Rabbi Bar Shmuel says, Rabbi Bar Shmuel beger shechazer l'suro, that Oved Kochavim was actually a convert. He converted to Judaism, but he went back. He reverted to being a Oved Kochavim. The suro kol shekain. Well, 1 second. I mean, if a fellow was an Oved Kochavim, then he converted to Judaism, and he decided, you know what, this is not for me, I'm going back to Avodas Kochavim. To make that decision, he must be much more interested in Getchkis than in the Eibishter. So I don't understand. So if he went back to being an Oved Kochavim, certainly you wouldn't be able to trust that Sefer Torah, to use that Sefer Torah, would be possible. Amr Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi shechozer l'sura mishum yira. No, the only reason, he had nothing wrong with being a yid. He wanted to be a yid. He liked being a yid. He likes mitzvahs and everything. He didn't like anti-Semitism. Now, he didn't realize that was a thing. All of a sudden he became a yid and he realized, wait, what? Anti-Semitism? Chaval. He says, I'd rather just not have to deal with this. So he goes back to being an Oved Kochavim. So in that case, I mean, he's still Torah, mitzvahs, he's on board with that. So he's writing the Sefer Torah with the right intentions. He just reverted from being a yid because, due to external factors, but we can trust him to write Sefer Torah. When we say that, don't pay more than the value of the Sefer Torah, tefillin and mezuzahs, you can go up to a tarpik above. My tarpoik, what's this tarpoik? Amr Sheshes istir. It's an istir. There was a Arab woman who brought a pair of a small sack with tefillin in it before Abaye. Omar Lo, and he said to her, Yaivas li reish b'tamri. Look, I'm willing to pay you in dates. Imalia zira shakla. She got very upset. Shakla shaditinu benaira, and she took the tefillin and she threw it into the river. Omar, and Abaye said, oops. I should not have I think maybe I went a little bit too far with not taking her seriously, that she threw them into the river. Friends, that was Daf Mem Hey of Masechta Gittin. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.